From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swarwell to Silverlink. Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
Good morning. How are we doing out there? Are we all right this morning?
Very good, lads. Very good.
It is the North East Footy Brekky, right across the North East on the Cat, the Toon and the Red. 2 minutes past 7. And we've got Steve. Good morning, Steve.
Morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Rye, down in Australia. How are we doing, Rye? and dare I ask, how are we doing, Macca? Up in County Durham.
Absolutely delighted. How are you?
Yeah, I'm a little bit with Rye this morning. Yeah, we've got to look up instead of down, haven't we? We've got to look onwards. I think that's the only way that we can do it.
The only way
this morning.
Just call me Mystic Steve, lads. Yesterday's show, I predicted a draw for Newcastle and Milan, and I predicted a draw for the Boro. I did get Boro score exactly right. I said 1-1.
Give me the lotto numbers now, Steve. Thank you very much. And I'll buy a private jet now. Thank you.
I just had a fancy for you guys getting something last night. That's what you build on. That's what the Boro's got to build on now. You've got a point. You've stopped the rot, if you like. You can move on, lads. Now, back to the weekend. You'll get 3 points in the weekend. I'll give you your prediction on Friday.
I'm hoping that. Yeah, I'm glad Steve is more upbeat than I am, and he obviously didn't see our first half, but. A lot to discuss
yes.
After that performance, and it's been a tough sort of 12 hours or so on social media for the Middlesbrough fans. It's been a tough sort of 12 hours or so, if not post game for probably all those involved down at the Boro, because there's a lot to be worried about at the moment, and that performance, and we're getting likened to. The Gordon Strachan era and stuff like that now.
Ooh, that bad.
Yeah, that was a real kick in the teeth, that wasn't it?
Yeah. There's a lot. There's definitely a lot to be spoken about that performance and how and that first half and Carrick's substitutions and. I don't know. There's a lot to get into, a lot to dissect. I don't want to make it a full Middlesbrough show.
Before the post-mortem about Boro, we can excel in Newcastle's return to the Champions League as well. And I tell you what. My favourite part was as the camera panned along the line of Newcastle United players. Just look at the smile on Jacob Murphy's face. Newcastle United fan.
With the Champions League song.
He's standing there with a ball boy and he's in dreamland. He is smiling. He is so proud that he's there. And I was delighted to see him selected last night. I mean, he's not what you would call one of your blue chip players. He's one of those players who, he smiles when he gets substituted. He's just happy to be there. He's a Newcastle fan. And I think he just summed up how we were all feeling as that music blared out last night and the hair went up at the back of our necks. But I guess for me, I was just delighted to get a point, and another clean sheet, because that's what it's based on. If you can keep clean sheets at one end and go up the other end and score goals, you're going to do all right. And in the Champions League, I think we learnt last night, there's nothing to be scared of.
But you didn't score any goals, though.
No, we didn't score any goals. It wasn't one of those games, Macca. It wasn't one of those games. Our first shot on target last night.
Parking the bus sort of game.
Yeah, but listen, if that's what Eddie Howe's now going to have to do to get his side back on track, then I'm not going to criticise the gaffer for doing that. And I think he's got the bit between his teeth here. He's seen what he needs to change. He's going to have to rotate the squad week in, week out. 3 games this week. They're going to come thick and fast up until November now. And I think that Newcastle fans will certainly accept a slight change in tactics and formation if it means that we're going to progress in the Champions League and we're going to keep up the top end of the table in the Premier League. But yeah, listen, it wasn't pretty. Wasn't a game for those who wanted to see goals. But I just think it announced Newcastle on the top table that they're not going to be easy to beat.
It was an exciting game,
wasn't it? if it wasn't for Pope,
Nick
Millan
Pope
could have had 3.
Yeah,
First
Nick
off,
Pope
yeah.
was absolutely incredible. My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's, we've spoken about this on on here. I've spoken about it on my podcast, spoken about it with me mates about is Nick Pope had a bad start to the season. Well, I think in the last 2 games he's answered his critics against Brentford.
Big time.
Pulled off a wonderful save against Brentford, which was just as important as Callum Wilson's penalty. But then last night he was just in unstoppable form. It's made a bit of a farce really of Gareth Southgate not selecting him as part of the England squad.
Oh, it's big time.
No doubt about it. But this is what you need. It's not the first time a goalkeeper has gone into a European game for Newcastle and really set the cat amongst the pigeons. Tim Krul, of course, went to Barcelona years ago and made his debut out there and kept goal and was absolutely superb. It just reminded me a little bit of that. The great goalkeeping performance and as I say, keeps our spirits up going into a game against Sheffield United at the weekend, who can't buy a win for love nor money. And if Pope can keep a clean sheet down at Sheffield United, then I genuinely think Newcastle can come back with 3 points.
I wouldn't worry about Pope not being selected for England, Steve, because when Eddie Howe goes for the England job, you'll select him, I'm sure.
You can dream, mate. You can dream.
Can I just ask, Macca, how did your predictions do last night, Macca?
I actually got one right. I didn't realise until my good colleague over there told me. 4-0 to AC Milan under 19s against Newcastle under 19s. So.
If you'd only said under 19s, Macca.
Sorry?
If you'd only said under 19s, I mean, yeah, that's why I told you that. I thought I could have really hammered you this morning about your prediction, but I thought no, I'll be kind to Macca. I'll be kind.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I didn't obviously get the Boro prediction right, but they're still rooted to the bottom of the league, aren't they? After not winning 7, isn't it? So it's.
But more about Champions League right now. That'd be great. Thank you. We're not ready to talk about Middlesbrough morning. I thought Kieran Trippier actually was incredible for you, Steve, as well. I got to watch the game. I was up a bit early last night. Obviously 4 a.m. start for me for the Boro, but getting to watch Newcastle. Obviously thinking of my great mate Steve, and I thought Kieran Trippier was probably one of the best players for Newcastle United on the night.
Yeah, I would agree. I think ultimately with Kieran Trippier, he was always going to be a key player last night. He's got experience at that level anyway. He's the captain of Newcastle United, and he was going to lead from the front. And yeah, I mean, this guy's got an international career behind him. He's played in the Champions League before. He's played in the played European teams as well. So look, from our perspective, it was always going to be a key player. But yeah, he had a good game. I mean, you could, as always on social media, people will always disagree. On X, for example, lots of people were having a pop at the usual suspect in midfield. But I genuinely thought. Again, I thought Longstaff played well. I can't see how Longstaff can play every single game, but he's like the glue that holds the midfield together. Tonali came under a lot of criticism last night. A lot of people saying that he looked sluggish, he wasn't tracking back, and that's the reason that Bruno doesn't seem to be the player that he was last season. Look, the jury's out really, because it's so early in the season. We've said it on here before. The old Steve McLaren phrase: give it 10 games. Let's see where we are at, after 10 games. But look, there's going to be squad rotation. Not everyone's going to be firing on all cylinders. I think emotionally last night it was going to be tough for Tonali. He's going back to his boyhood club, and the atmosphere may have got the top of him. We don't really know. I think there was a lot of calls on social media last night that. We don't have anybody creative in the midfield at the moment, or that's the way it seems. We've got a negative midfield as opposed to a positive midfield, and that's why Newcastle don't seem to be as on the front foot as they were last season. But yeah, look, there was a couple of standout performances. It was nice to see Anthony Gordon again, getting a start again. Somebody who splits fans' opinions, but he's had a good start of the season. Gordon, he's had a solid start of the season, but it wasn't like an attacking performance. I mean, we registered our first shot on target towards the end of the game through Longstaff. Other than that, it was all Milan the first half with Nick Pope.
That's what I'm saying. You parked the bus.
We did, yeah. Well, but that's sometimes what you've got to do, you know. I mean, Newcastle's first game in the Champions League in 20 years. You know, you don't want to go across there and lose 3-0, and you know then you've got to come back home, play Sheffield United, who can't buy a win, and you know suddenly a season's turned round again. We've turned our season round with a scrappy, awful, dirty 1-0 win against Brentford. We've now gone to AC Milan. We've gone to San Siro, one of the most renowned stadiums in the world, and we've come away with a 0-0 draw, kept a clean sheet and got a point in the so-called group of death. You know, so you know this week is I said it could be a pivotal week in Newcastle season already. We've already managed to get a win and a draw, and if we can get a win against Sheffield United, everything suddenly starts to look a lot different. And that's what you were saying yesterday, Macca, about fickle football fans. You know, a couple of weeks ago, we're looking at it going, you know, it's all doom and gloom. You know, we can't buy a win. We're going to get whopped in the Champions League. Now, you know, you're looking at it going, well, actually, we've got a really good week here, and if we can beat Sheffield United at the weekend, suddenly we're on 9 points. We're back in the European positions, depending on results, and we've got another Champions League game coming up. We've got the Carabao Cup coming up as well. It's you know, that's just the way it is. The games are going to come thick and fast for us, and there's going to be, I think it's going to be an emotional roller coaster, but I think we're pointing more to the fact, you know, you've already said it as a fan who's just watching Newcastle's games from afar. You know, Rai said it as well, that there could be a change in tactics here by Eddie Howe, and we're missing Joe Linton as well, who was a big part of last season's success. He's out for another couple of weeks. You know, we're missing Joe Willock, who was a big part of last season's success, who's out for another few weeks. So, you know, things may look a bit different when those two come back in October. But for now, you know, it is what it is. We've got to make do. We'll make do with what we've got, and I'm happy. I'm happy. The result is what counts. And for me, you know, Newcastle have laid a marker in the Champions League, shall we say?
So what are the headlines this morning, then, guys? What's all the headlines? Let's. I'm interested to hear them all.
Well, mine's Champions League dominated. If you want us to go through them, Newcastle United played out a 0-0 draw in their 135th match in Europe last night against AC Milan in the San Siro in front of just over 65,000 fans. Nick Pope had to make a string of first half stops that kept United in the game, but in truth, neither side showed the necessary quality or desire to win the game. They almost pinched a win in the final minute of added time when Sean Longstaff fired on target from the edge of the area, but his firm shot was tipped over by the Milan keeper. Overall, an excellent result for United and proof that they've got nothing to fear from any sides in the so-called group of death. After the game, Eddie Howe said, "You can't underestimate the difficulties of coming here, the emotion of the game, new experiences. We had to take a lot on board today. I thought the crowd were very good for Milan. It was a hostile atmosphere and the players had to adjust to that, and that is why I don't think you can underestimate the performance and the point. It will look better as time goes on. There were a few new experiences for a lot of us tonight, and hopefully we can grow from this." Nick Pope was outstanding today. He was excellent against Brentford as well, and it is no coincidence. 2 big displays from him and 2 clean sheets, absolutely crucial for us. The only other news I've got today, you've already heard it, is that Newcastle United under-19s lost 4-0 to their Italian counterparts. And good news for Eddie Mackay, the Newcastle United fan who was stabbed in Milan prior to the game. He has made a suitable recovery. Not sure if he made the match last night. Everybody at the radio station wishes him all the best. Get well soon, mate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the thing is, you know, you're going to watch the sport that you love. Yeah, you know, it doesn't matter who you support here. You shouldn't, you know, have to worry about your life when you go, you know, going to a game, man. It's honestly, it's, you know, mindless. And I hope the people that do it, you know, I hope they feel the long arm of the Italian justice system, because it's shocking, absolutely shocking.
Come on then, right? Give us the Boro headlines.
Couldn't agree more. Righto, Middlesbrough headlines. I'm going to call them probably lines instead of headlines because, look, let's be honest. Michael Carrick says releasing Middlesbrough FC players from self-doubt is his biggest job after the 1-1 draw with Sheffield Wednesday. Teessiders are looking still for their first championship win since April after a 1-1 draw at Sheffield Wednesday, who remain level on points with them. Boro looked absolutely bereft of confidence, and although a strong start to the second half seemed to imbue them with belief, not to mention a Darren Lenihan goal, it did not last long. Carrick also insists he maintains full belief in Lucas Engel despite axing the left back at halftime of the Sheffield Wednesday, and the Middlesbrough boss says the Danish summer signing will be better for the experience at Hillsborough as he struggles to adapt to the championship. Asked about this, about the evening for his left back, Carrick said, Lucas is fine. I don't doubt Lucas one bit. It just sometimes you have one of those nights that don't quite go for you. Lucas was very dangerous in the first half, but as a team, we didn't really help each other. We were a little bit half-hearted, and so the spaces were a little bit bigger. Carrick finished by saying that he's still very proud of this group, and that he understood what the players were going through after being a player himself and going through rough times at the club level. Michael now takes his club back home to the Riverside against Southampton, where Middlesbrough will be looking for a much-needed home lift from crowd and players as we look to get the season back on track.
Yeah.
Right. Where's Boro in the league at the moment, guys?
Let's move on to Sunderland news. Sunderland headlines. Tony Mowbray has said that Nazarian Rushin still hasn't got his visa, so he won't travel to Blackburn this evening after back-to-back wins in the Sky Bet Championship. The lads are hoping to build on their recent form at Ewood Park. However, it looks as though they're going to be without Pierre Ekwa and Dennis Kirkin as well. Dennis is going to be a few weeks. Kirkin, yep, sorry. Dennis is going to be a few... You keep me right, Macca. Dennis is going to be a few weeks, and he'll potentially be back after the next international break. And Pierre has a hematoma or a dead leg, and he struggled at QPR. He said it's quite swollen, so he'll probably need about 10 days for that to settle down. Tony Mowbray also looks set to hand Alex Pritchard his first start of the season at Blackburn Rovers. Pritchard has been pretty much used as an impact sub this season, and there's been uncertainty over his future in the summer as he got into the final year of his contract, but no move materialised. And he's continued to impress on the pitch whenever he's come on, and he had undeniably his best showing after he replaced Pierre Ekwa in the QPR win. And Mowbray has confirmed last month that Pritchard's chances of starting were complicated by the uncertainty of his future, but now that looks to have changed, and it looks as though he's going to get himself a start this evening. In other Sunderland news, looks like professional development phase coach Adam Ashgar set to leave the Stadium of Light. Ashgar, who's led the Black Cats under 18s outfit since 2022 October, has accepted a new role at Southampton. And listen to this: the Sunderland are getting with the future, with technology. They're offering a WhatsApp service to fans where you can get all the news and content from the Stadium of Light delivered direct to your phone via WhatsApp. You can sign up on the website, and it looks as though there's been a massive undertaking already with 4 people signing up for that.
4 people?
4
people.
I may have made that last bit up there.
Well done, Daz. I like that. That was good.
I'm just saying, yeah, that's the Middlesbrough crowd, isn't it? The Middlesbrough home crowd. A family of 4 on a free ticket.
If you've got 4 Sunderland fans, it's more points than Middlesbrough have on the board at the moment. So, look, I can't say too much for Middlesbrough aren't playing too well. But, look, let's catch up. Obviously, we've spoke about Newcastle. Let's flow on into Middlesbrough and get it out of the way so that I can move on and have a happy radio show after that. It was an absolute shocking first half. After everything we saw in the second half of Blackburn, we thought the confidence would be up. We thought the boys would be ready to go. There was 4 changes made by Michael Carrick leading into the night. And unfortunately, it was referred to as the worst performance since Gordon Strachan was in charge of the club. I was doing a live watch along, obviously right here on the Red and over on YouTube, and I was dismayed come halftime. I was embarrassed for what I'd seen. To be honest, the level of performance, the level of players that just didn't seem to be want to be out there on a Tuesday night was shocking. It looked very underwhelming, and unfortunately some of the players just weren't up for the fight. No. Second half we came out, and obviously whoever's doing the halftime talk needs to start doing them at the start of the game, because the halftime talk was good. We also saw the changes to Izzy Jones coming on. I think that made a massive difference. Someone was asking me just before we went to halftime who I thought we should change, and I literally thought getting Izzy Jones on would prove influential, and it did. But look, I'm the most optimistic, upbeat Boro fan. I hate the social media naysayers. It is disgusting what some of these people are saying about the club and players and stuff like that. But it is, in some ways, I get their frustrations because it is, at the moment, quite dire to see a Middlesbrough team that did so well end of last season, taking us to the playoffs, to be completely and utterly undone. Michael Carrick's team selection last night and choice of substitutes were baffling. They left me scratching my head. I was sitting there, and I'm by no expert, but we had a fair few people watching along, and we were all saying that why wouldn't he change this? Why wouldn't he change that? Seeing substitutions like Riley McGree coming off, and not Sammy Silvera and stuff like that was just honestly mind-boggling, because there was a few boys out there that just were not in it. And look, I don't want to put any more pressure on the lads. I think the Aussie boys, you got to understand, and this goes out for all the Sammy Silvera haters at the moment, which just seems to be piling up on the poor kid coming across from the other side of the world. And I said this straight off the bat, and I think I said it pretty confidently very first when people asked me about Sammy Silvera and what the A-League was like. We have to understand that the A-League for us here in Australia, and I've said this before, is on the same par as I would say League One. League One and A-League are probably about the same. I would argue that Portsmouth, your Boltons and stuff like that would probably fit in well into the A-League system. The A-League system here in Australia is still trying to promote a very spectacular, fast-flowing, entertaining style of football. And by doing that, you see the referees not really allowing any nudging, no argy-bargy, nothing like that. It is really stamped out of the Australian game. The Australian game is meant to be fast-flowing, exciting, with players getting time on the ball to show and what they can do. Now, Sammy Silvera had that in spades at Central Coast Mariners last year, especially under Nick Montgomery. He's now moved to the other side of the world, and he's gone to the championship. He's gone to the championship in one of the toughest, most ruthless leagues in England, where we see players getting battered left, right and centre. We see Sammy getting pushed over left, right and centre. Even last night we saw him get a bad tackle, and then Bannon decided to kick the ball into his head as well. Yeah. And Sammy was actually substituted just shortly after that, so we worry that he might have a slight concussion. But it's the type of football that the English are used to, and if you can't adjust to that, then you're obviously going to get found out. It's going to take a while for all these players to adjust, but we're 7 games in now. I don't know how much longer we can keep asking for adjustment period. I'm sad. I'm upset. I'm not sure what comes next for the Boro. I'm not sure what I was hoping for. A big bright spark. I was hoping for a big change, something to click. We didn't see it last night. We go on to Southampton, who are also down on their luck, but we'll be looking at us as an easy beat. Obviously, we're last on the table for a reason, and if we start anything like we did last night against Southampton, we're in for a big long day.
The thing is, right. I just want to say, right, just when you were saying that about the players and the pressure and stuff, it's probably worth thinking, Middlesbrough fans, that obviously, the lads are probably feeling the pressure without all the nonsense on social media. And I mean, they're probably feeling the pressure of where they are in the situation, and the fact that they know, they don't need to be told. They know where they are. They know they've not won in X amount of games and stuff like that. So and I can say this because obviously I've been there with Sunderland. We've been down in the doldrums and struggling and stuff like that. You just need to keep doing what you do at home games and get right behind them, and especially Saturday. Southampton are struggling, so there's no reason why you can't go out and beat them. But you've just got to stay with the team and just keep going. And yes, things might not go your way at the start, but you just got to keep with it and try and support the players as well as the club, and because you just don't know what will happen in it. And the players know, like you say, they know they don't need to be told. And some of the stuff about Samiro, or so the Australian guy,
Sammy Silvera, yeah.
You've just, like you say, just remember how imagine if you were all put in that position, how you would cope, having to travel from the other side of the world, and I don't know if his family's with him or, and totally getting
London based,
so totally getting used to, but totally getting used to a new culture though, right? And like you say, a new country,
100%, mate. Yeah.
I completely agree. Reality check.
I completely agree, mate. And it's it's great, to have that expectation and that sort of level of optimism for the Boro fans. But at the moment, the Boro fans are quite upset, quite down on the dumps. And we saw booing last night for the first time of the players and the group. We even saw, obviously, a Sheffield Wednesday protest of 15 tennis balls thrown on the pitch. I don't know what that's about.
It was a pretty poor protest, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Where did tennis balls comes from West Yorkshire? It's like
I don't get it. If you
South Yorkshire,
if you're gonna call in this morning or WhatsApp and you're a Sheffield Wednesday fan, let me know what the tennis balls are about, because 15-minute mark, 15 tennis balls thrown on the pitch. Game had to be stopped and collected in protest to the current ownership of Sheffield Wednesday. And we saw a team in Sheffield Wednesday completely and utterly down on confidence as well. Their players getting absolutely ridiculed by their own fans. Tennis balls thrown on the pitch, and and they were literally, they are in big trouble if Sheffield Wednesday continue down that route, because they've got a lot of problems off the pitch with fans protesting and stuff like that. Now, Boro aren't at that level, but clearly on the pitch we are just lacking in confidence. I feel for the fans, and I'm not going to sit here and tell fans how they should or shouldn't act. They can do that themselves. They're all grown adults. They can love the club however they choose fit. But I know that the Middlesbrough fans, we've all been through it before. We go through the hardest points, the lowest points with this club, and we also we get to ride the highs as well. So, my final thoughts on it is, I love you, Boro fans. I love the town, love the people. We'll be right, and look, we'll get behind the lads again on Saturday, and we'll see what happens.
Where do you go from here, Rai? Where do you go as Michael Carrick now? Because things are starting to heat up. And where do you go as Steve Gibson?
I think the writing's starting to be on the wall. I said it earlier that you can only paint a wall so many times over a crack before the cracks keep coming through, sort of thing. And for me at the moment, I mean, the first real sign of Carrick getting it wrong was last night for me in terms of team selection and substitutions. I'm not sure what his thought process was there. He's a brilliant man, brilliant manager, still calm, collected, but we were crying out for Latte Lath to come on for his movement and speed at the end of the game. That didn't happen. You could tell Sammy Silveira, poor lad, was well off it, but he left him on for the 80th minute. So he took Riley off in the 70th minute, just as we were starting to kick into gear as well, and replaced him with Greenwood, who didn't do anything. Just some of the substitutions that he made and choices of team selection and stuff, and rightly so. Everyone's starting to question that, and I think when you don't get the performance, and you get the performance that we did for the first 45 minutes, that people are right to ask questions, because literally we went into that game, you could see how upbeat we were, trying to get a point. And I know it's tough when you're down on confidence, you've got a new team together and stuff like that, but literally you cannot fathom the first 45 minutes we saw from that Middlesbrough team, because that can never happen again. That level of performance in that first 45 minutes, that was absolutely terrible to watch. It was distressing, I would say. And I've said it again, but I had people calling in saying that they likened it to the worst performance since Gordon Strachan was in charge. So, look, unfortunately, if you're Steve Gibson, I think you're going to give Carrick all the support that he needs. You're going to give Carrick all the sort of mentality he needs. The hard thing for me is that Steve Gibson took so much time to make Michael Carrick, and he thought Michael Carrick was the right man. We turned down Rob Edwards. Rob Edwards now the coach at Luton Town. This is how much Middlesbrough wanted Michael Carrick at the time. They turned down Rob Edwards. Rob Edwards went on to end up managing Luton Town, taking them to the Prem, and we had Michael Carrick. And it just seems at the moment that the writing's on the wall once again for Middlesbrough, and it's a shame. It's devastating, and I just don't know, what comes next. I think Steve gives him the time, and I think Michael gets the time to try and get it right. But eventually, if we're talking 10, 15 games still in, and we're playing like this, then you're going to have to change it.
I think we better have the news.
sorry, I just want to ask Rai. Do you think, obviously we had the chat last week, and we all made our predictions about which of the three the three big Northeast clubs, the managers was going to leave first. Do you think it makes my prediction look any closer when I said Carrick will be the one that goes first? After last
No, I still don't see it. I don't think. No, I just, out of the three clubs, I definitely think he's under pressure, but I just have a sneaky suspicion that he's not as close as we, the fans, think. I honestly think there's still some big surprises to play out. With the Sunderland Mogga thing and stuff like that, and also seeing with Eddie Howe and stuff. I don't know. I just don't see it at the moment. I just don't think Steve Gibson's going to pull that pin just yet.
I mean, one of the things that has been said on social media quite a lot in terms of Carrick is that, he was the man for the job. He's brought in this, as we saw last season, this free-flowing football, exciting football back to the Riverside, and yet he knows how to do that from the Manchester United days. But maybe what he doesn't know how to do is to dig a team out like he's got to do right now. And we saw maybe when Woodgate was in charge as well, he doesn't know how to do that either. So we've got the two of them there scratching their heads at how to pull the team out. And I think the thing for me watching the game last night was, particularly in that woeful first half, is that Carrick has been talking about how everything's calm, the feeling in the camp is positive. I saw the complete opposite in that first half, and it's clearly affecting the players.
We all did.
It clearly is affecting them, isn't it?
1,000%.
The pressure is on their shoulders. You can almost see it on their faces. When a pass goes astray, or the shot is terrible. You can see that fear, and you're thinking, they may be thinking, well, I'm not going to do that again, or I'm not going to put myself out there. So it is a worry for me, and I understand, the whole thing of, how much time do we give him? And you said it yourself, Rai. Us Boro fans, we're vocal. We've got something to say, and I think a lot of them will have something to say on Saturday, particularly if after 20 minutes we're playing like that.
We see that again,
yeah. But can Carrick dig us out of this?
I hope so. I mean, he has to be at the moment. There's no one else coming in to do it, is there? Do you know what I mean? At the moment, he's got to be the man that gets them up and about. I think you're absolutely right and spot on. And one thing that's always surprised me with Michael is we spoke about when Michael first came to the club about his, his dossier in terms of who he could contact and the people that he would know in this industry. Michael Carrick played at the top level for many, many years, internationally and club level. He knew he had a good relationship with Sir Alex Ferguson. I wouldn't be surprised if he hasn't spoken to him in the past couple of weeks of how, the run's been going. Michael played with some of the superstars that are also current managers now. So his phone book would be so deep and so large that you would think Michael would have the option or the advice from wherever he wanted to be able to get the advice on how to pull them out of this. But unfortunately, the calm sort of natured, collective of putting your arms around these boys, isn't working, because we saw the first 45 minutes where they just weren't up for the fight. Now, a lot of people said to me they wish Leo was back, and I know Leo's flattering around the club, but can you imagine a Leo pep talk to start off that that game? How much that could have maybe got the boys up and about. So to answer your question, Daz, I think he has to be at the moment. But it's a very, very interesting subject when you've got Jonathan Woodgate, Aaron Danks around him as well, who I argue are both very calm, like-minded people. Mm-hmm. There doesn't seem to be someone in there that's going to shoot a rocket up anyone's bum if they need to. And maybe that's what some of these lads need, but I don't know what the lads need. Do you know what I mean? The players know, and they'll be down. I speak to Riley, I speak to Sammy and all that. Do you know what I mean? I know that how much it's hurting them and how much they're feeling down about it, and they know that we don't need to remind them. But it's up to the manager. The buck stops with him. Yeah. It's up to the manager to get it's man management. We talk about it with Mowbrow. We talk about it with Eddie Howe. It's man management now. It's learning mentally how to get the best out of these players when they are so down on confidence with their own game. It's about how can Michael now connect with Sammy Silvera? How can he connect with Engel after he subbed him at 45 minutes in what was the most, abysmal performance I've ever seen from a left back? You know what I mean? Like, how do you get around a player like that now and bring them back to a level where they're going to be confident in their own ability? And that's why he gets paid the big bucks.
It'll be interesting to hear what other Boro fans think, so why don't you all WhatsApp into the show and let us know? I'm sure Daz will give out the WhatsApp number.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you this morning on the Cat, the Two and the Red. 033 or 043 2002. That's our WhatsApp number. That'll WhatsApp us here into the studio. Let us have your thoughts on Newcastle's performance last night, Boro's performance. What, guys, we're going to take a break, and what I'll be interested to come back to is just to hear Steve and Macca's feelings about if this was your team, 10 championship games without a win, 12 if you include the playoffs. What would your thoughts be on the manager situation? But we'll talk about that after this.
Now then, do you do sales? Do you fancy a great career challenge? Well, the Red, the Cat and the Toon has a full-time vacancy for a special sales exec. Not only will you be responsible for generating the vital revenue needed to see the Northeast's newest radio business grow, but you'll grow too. Show us you can do the business and you'll soon become Group Sales Director. Our stations are flying. We have the three legends back on air. Then there's the one that most are talking about, the Northeast Footy Brekky Show. And there's more to come. Gumption and creativity count more to us than years. You may only have 2 or 3 years selling experience, but if you get what we're trying to achieve, you will be the right fit. You'll ideally be located in Tyneside or Wearside. This will be a hybrid working role. It's a full-time basic plus commission position. So come on, think you have what it takes? Then give us a shout. Email any of the 3 stations. That's hello@thetoonuk.com, hello@thecatuk.com, or hello@thereduk.com.
Steve and Rye, the Northeast Footy Breakfast.
The Cat, the Toon and the Red. If someone so let the music play till the end.
Pink and Never Not Going to Dance Again.
The Red. Sport update
On the Cat, the Toon and the Red. Oh, it's all happening this morning. This is the Cat, the Toon and the Red right across the Northeast, and it's our Northeast Footy Brekky with Steve and Rye and Macca. Guys, just before we had the break, we were talking about the Boro last night, and Steve, we were talking about the Michael Carrick's position. A lot of Boro fans not happy with the position, the way things are going. I just wanted to sort of pass that over to Steve and Macca. From a Newcastle and Sunderland perspective, if your team hadn't won in 10 games, like I say, 12 including the playoffs, and put in a performance like that last night, what would your thoughts be about the managerial position?
I wouldn't be happy. Of course, I wouldn't be happy. And football fans do tend to vote with their feet and become vociferous up here if things aren't going well. I think Boro fans at the moment seem to have the patience of a saint, certainly at the games, but on social media we know it's a completely different story. Rye's inbox will tell you that. But I think when you look at matches, nowadays it's a statistics driven game. Michael Carrick will look at that, and I was just looking through the stats for last night's game. Boro had 62% possession last night. They had 10 shots at goal, 3 on target, only 4 corners. It tells its own story. Yes, they had the possession as the away team, but they're doing very, very little with it. And Michael Carrick is somebody who did very, very well last season. This season, it's gone against him, and it really comes down to whether the owner, Steve Gibson, is going to give him time. And as an outsider looking in, as a Newcastle fan looking at Middlesbrough's situation, I've often praised Steve Gibson for, giving his managers time to turn things round. But it's starting to look worrying now. Because when you're playing against another team that is struggling for form, and you're putting in like such an abject performance like that, then I think it is time to worry. He made the substitution, didn't he, last night? Was it Lucas Engel? I think he axed the left back at half time last night. Now he's given him a bit of a vote of confidence, but that kind of thing is not going to do the morale in the dressing room any good. He's clearly going to be down. He's going to have a clique of players who he associates with, who he's friends with, and that's not going to do the atmosphere in the dressing room any good. And that's what Rai was talking about, man management before. Is a big part of the game. Well, Michael Carrick's got a big job with him this morning. Now he's come out last night and in his after match interview and said, look, it was a tactical change. This is the reason we've done it. But ultimately for him, he's got that to deal with first thing this morning. You can see the natives are restless. You can see that some of these players are up for the fight. And Craig Johns, a great journalist, good friend of mine, obviously covered the game last night, and I'm always interested to see the players' marks, and especially listening to what Rai said, who did his watch along last night. But it's quite clear Engel was awful. So Carrick did the right thing there. Sammy Silvera obviously wasted Boro's only decent chance in the first half, but he's struggling for end product. But the marks that Craig gave the players last night, they were all 4s, 5s and 6s. So it's collectively not going well for Middlesbrough. It's not down to one person. Yes, Engel and Silvera probably stand out as the two players who had an absolute nightmare last night. But it's a team performance, it's a team game. You win as a team, you lose as a team, and that's what Carrick needs to. Carrick as a man manager needs to go into that training ground today. He needs to get them sat down. He needs to do a bit of a what I would call a Jamal Lascelles. He needs to go in there and say to the players, listen, who's up for this fight? If you're not up for this fight, then
there's the door.
We don't want you here. We'll get you out in January, because this club deserves, and these fans deserve a lot more than what you're giving at the moment. There needs to be some honesty in that dressing room from Michael Carrick today, and he needs to find out who he can trust and who he can't trust, because at the moment it looks as if he's doing a two-shaped turtle. People of an older generation will understand what that means, but he's basically burying his head in the sand. He's like a turtle. He's putting his head back in his shell. It doesn't look as if he's fronting this up with the players, and that's starting to show on the pitch for me as a neutral in this particular situation. But yeah, look, Macca, you're in the same division as these guys. What's your take on what's happening at Boro, and how would you feel if it was 10 games in and no win on the board?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be really concerned. Of course I would. But I'm a bit like you, Steve, and I imagine Rai would be the same if he was over here. You would still go, home and away and support him, because that's just what you do, no matter what performance they put in. You just can't help not going. So, I mean, if I was listening last night, and apparently for the first time, Carrick got angry at his players. The guy is Lenihan, who scored the goal. He was screaming at one of the players to give the ball to Lenihan, because I reckon he obviously can run at players and stuff like that. And that's the first time from the touchline that he's sort of got angry. He's normally just a very calm and cool, collected figure on the touchline. So I think it was maybe it's starting to get to him a little bit now as well. And like you say, we have the banter and all that, but the fans and stuff, they do deserve a lot more than they're getting at the moment. And yeah, you never know. It might, like you say, one win might turn into 2, 3. I mean, if you look at Sunderland's situation, we've got that win against Southampton, and then we followed it up against QPR. And I'm not saying it's going to be any easy stretch, like an easy game tonight at Blackburn, because it's going to be anything but it's amazing how one turns into two, and and especially in this relentless league that is the Championship, games come thick and fast, so you've not got a lot of time to dwell on the results that you're getting. You've got to think, right, I've got to look up now, I've got to focus to the next game. And I feel a bit for Carrick with that regard, because I think people's probably saying that he's sort of not caring because he's not really focusing on the results that he's getting. But I think he's looking ahead. He's trying to look ahead to games as well. And I noticed that when you listen to his interviews, he's always quite positive. He always finds the positive things out of the bad situation. But it's tough, and we've all been there. So, like you say, as we say, it's Sunderland. You've just got to keep the faith, and hopefully
it starts to wear thin, doesn't it, as a football supporter, though, when your results are going as badly as they are at Middlesbrough, and a manager starts to find a good thing in a game against Sheffield Wednesday where they've drawn 1-1. They've been absolutely atrocious, and the manager's finding some positives. I mean, maybe that's something that he should keep for he should keep for himself, and not put out in the public. Maybe he should be saying, well, I'm not happy about this, blah blah blah. There needs to be a bit of tough love here, I think, at Middlesbrough, because if there's not, then they're gonna drift into a relegation battle.
I think the encouraging thing is for Middlesbrough is that, yes, you are on a poor run of form, but if you look at Southampton, I think, if I'm right, since we beat them, they've got beat off Leicester, I think it was, and Ipswich, so they've not picked up any points. So again, I'm clutching at straws, I know, but that's a bit of an encouraging thing for Middlesbrough going into Saturday's game at what will probably be a big crowd at the Riverside.
Yeah, it was interesting, just to wrap up quickly before we move on as well, with just on Craig Johns as well, good friend of Steve and I, and an amazing journalist. And I was asking him after the game, because obviously he was there, how exactly was it, mate? And he said, look, mate, I thought we were bad, but ... And that, I think, that just sums it up perfectly, I think. So,
I'm not
we were
being
bad,
funny
but
look at your games. Look at your games coming up now, right? Middlesbrough have got Southampton on the 23rd, this coming weekend. You've then got the Carabao Cup, which is a distraction really you don't need. But if you can get a win in that game and get away to Bradford, maybe that's the one that the catalyst that boosts the league form. Then you've got away to Watford, and then you've got another tough game on Sky against Cardiff at home. You know what? If you haven't managed to turn things around, if you're knocked out of the Carabao Cup and you haven't managed to get any more points on the board, by the time you come to that derby on the 7th of October, that could be a pivotal game for Carrick.
Yeah, it could be. I completely agree. And look, I think, at the moment, to be honest with you, I think it's still it's early doors in terms of the management and managers that are out there that are available. I think as we see the year go on, we'll see more managers. Exactly. I mean, he's the first, but do you know what I mean? There's going to be more Macca. Do you know what I mean? There's going to be more managers sacked. We always see it. Do you know what I mean? Come Christmas, it'll be interesting to see who's still there and who's not. And I think then, there might be someone out there that Steve goes, actually, hang on a second. If Carrick is still, if we're still heading down this run, Neil Warnock's just the first of what I think is going to be plenty. And we'll probably see a few in the Premier League as well. I don't expect Rob Edwards, unfortunately, as good as manager as he is at Luton. If Luton continue to not get any points, I don't see him continuing on. I mean, Vincent Kompany at Burnley, you think would probably be safe. Paul Heckenbottom's obviously not doing the right things through the referee statements and stuff like that. So, there's all this going to be this management movement before we even hit January, I think. So it'll be interesting to see, what that leaves. And if a good manager becomes available, then maybe Steve will strike at that stage. But at the moment, for me, there isn't anyone out there that he could go and get that replaces Carrick, and you have that sort of, oh my goodness, that wow, what an appointment sort of thing.
Let's have it right, though. No one on this show for 1 minute is writing Carrick off. No one's saying that.
God,
like you say, you could get a result on Saturday.
Yeah.
And yes, you're in the Carabao Cup next week. But if you get a win on Saturday and say you get you win against Bradford Tuesday night, then that's a couple of wins, and it just breeds confidence, and which breeds momentum. So you just never know.
I love Michael. I love him. I love him. I love exactly what he does and what he goes about. And as I said, last night was the first signs of, oh, hang on a second, that's a bit of a weird decision, but it's the first one I've ever had with him in 12 months or so. And I think he literally, he's also, at the end of the day as well, the recruitment stuff are the one that brought the new players in, and it's up to him to try and get the gel and put them together. He's got a very tough job on his hands, does Michael, and I don't envy him at the moment, but I still has 1,000% backing, and if he still needs me to come over and iron his cardigans, then I'm happy to do it.
and I think you look at what's happened over the last few seasons, the whole 12 to 18 month manager sacking routine that we've found ourselves into. It's not helping the club, and you've got to think that maybe the problems are certainly above the manager.
They could be. We don't know. We don't know. But I don't know. I don't like looking too deeply into it. But a couple of wins, like Macca said, and Steve as well. A couple of wins that can change everyone's sort of fortune and sort of thought of what's happening senior. And look again, like we said, with Newcastle, if Newcastle had have lost to Brentford, gotten smacked against AC Millan, then maybe there would be questions there. It's funny what even a draw or a strong result from a couple of players can do for you. We saw Nick Pope and Kieran Trippier last night completely and utterly stand up for Newcastle. Yeah. And if we can have one or two boys stand up on Saturday for Middlesbrough and go, wow, or at least grab them, if a manager is going to be calm, cool and collected, and it's up to Darragh Lenihan to grab the boys by the scruff of the neck and say, righto boys, get on my back because here we go, sort of thing. Yeah. And that's what I'm sort of looking for at the moment.
The thing is, right, it's amazing what a win, with a lucky penalty in the Premier League can do for you, isn't it? Honestly, it's amazing.
Yeah, the key words there are Premier League, Macca.
And then lucky, no, the key word's lucky, I think. Lucky.
So do you think...
Hey, what about those? So let's move on. What about the local boys in Gateshead and Hartlepool, both flying high? Hartlepool doing obviously had a bit of a tough night last night. Did Hartlepool, but look, I guess the Northeast footy, not just the big three. We've also got Gateshead and Hartlepool. Do you think one of them, Steve, is destined to come back?
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I mean, look, obviously as a Gateshead lad, I'd love to see Gateshead come back. They had a great win last night against Kidderminster Harriers in the National League. Easy for them at the International Stadium last night. Denanja, Greg, Ollie got goals in the first half, and Reagan Booty scored the third. You know what? There's been an air of positivity at the International Stadium over the last few years. They had a little bad run with an unscrupulous owner, shall we say? But once the club got taken over, it's been run in a more professional fashion now. And Mike Williamson's done a wonderful job down there with his coaching staff. And they deserve a bit of success, and maybe, just maybe, this season we'll see them potentially back certainly in the playoffs for this for promotion from this league. Chesterfield are leading the way in that division after 10 games on 25 points. Solihull are on their coattails on 22 points.
It's Will Grigg, isn't it, at Chesterfield?
Yeah, Gateshead are down in 5th on 16 points, but we know that division, if you think the Championship's a long hard course, then
exactly.
This one's just as bad, if not worse. Hartlepool, though, Jeff Stelling, of course, a big Hartlepool fan.
Yep.
He'll be happy. They're neck and neck on points with Gateshead, behind on goal difference only. And as you say, last night Hartlepool played out a 2-2 draw against Altrincham away from home. Oliver Finney and Joe Gray getting the goals for Hartlepool. But look, it's positive. I mean, it always breaks my heart to see Hartlepool down there. Gateshead have been down.
I like John Askey as well.
They've been down in the doldrums for many years. I mean, if you know your history, Newcastle were the team that voted Gateshead out of the league, which always surprises me. But yeah, Hartlepool shouldn't be there. It's a little bit of mismanagement over the years has seen them go down there, and it always amazes me when you do look at the clubs that are down there. Oldham, when Newcastle were the entertainers in the Premier League in the early days of the Premier League, Oldham were in the Premier League. and to see them down there beating York City 2-0 last night, it's incredible. Yeah, it is incredible. But yeah, look, overall, I do keep an eye on it, especially with it being Gateshead. I'd love to see them back in the Football League. It's going to be an interesting watch, that's for sure.
And when it's a mention for South Shields as well, obviously they're in the league below Gateshead, and they're doing well as well, good stuff's happening at Mariners Park as well. So yeah, like you say, we do cover not just the big three on the North East Footy Breakfast Show. So if you've got an opinion about one of the other clubs, then get in touch, because we'd love to hear from you. And I think it's coming up to this time.
It is. You can get in touch with the show at any point on WhatsApp on 0330 043 2002. Put it into your WhatsApp. Get us on. Get your message up on the air. We'll come into the studio and we'd love to hear from you. Yes, we've just gone 8 o'clock and we'll be back with more on the North East Footy after this.
From Yarm to Yibby, Harrington to Horsley Hill, Swarwell to Silverlink. Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
On the other side of the street.
The best music mix right across the North East on the Cat, the Toon and the Red. This is the North East Footy Brekky, and we've got Rye, we've got Steve and Macca. Good morning again, gents. Are we all right?
We are
all good.
Doing well. We've covered the borough. Now we can move on to the future. And
well,
you know what? We can only look forward.
We did want to talk about. Me and Macca were just talking off air there about the fact that players, at clubs such as Newcastle, Sunderland, and Middlesbrough, who aren't getting game time, who maybe are playing in like the under 23s, etc., maybe should be loaned out. There should be a little bit more of a conscious effort to help out some of these lower teams like Hartlepool, like Gateshead, like Darlington, maybe give an opportunity for some of these younger players to go out. I know Newcastle had a degree of success in the past with that. I mean, I think we've done it with a few of the teams in Scotland as well, with the likes of Sean Longstaff, Steve Harper, going out on loan, doing well. Harper went to Gateshead, and did very well there. But yeah, I mean, it's just something. It's something we both agree on, Macca, isn't it? I think there should be a bit more of
absolutely
that. Get some experience.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously pre-season, the like Sunderland, Newcastle, and Middlesbrough normally play games against like Hartlepool and Darlington and to a certain extent York City as well, and obviously now that South Shields are doing well again, South Shields. So yeah, because it's just going to help the North East obviously eventually, because it's a hotbed of football up here, and the fans love the game, and it's important that we see past the big crowds that go to Sunderland, to Newcastle and Middlesbrough, because obviously the lower league, the teams in the North East like Hartlepool, Shields and etc., they've got their hardcore of supporters that go every week, and it's important we try and reward them with giving them some like fringe players, some young lads that don't get the same game time in the 23 under 23 league, because it's reserve football is just not the same as it used to be when I was younger. God, I'm saying when I was younger, I'm 36, but I feel old. But that's just supporting Sunderland that does that here in Hibs. But yeah, it's the 23s league isn't the same as it was. So, and I think that's why I know people bemoan it, but the cup, the Papa John's Trophy, which we so famously won, that's why that's so important, because it's putting up like under 23 teams against like a proper senior team. I know it's probably a debate for another day, but I think that's why that cup is important. But the young lads have got to get the experience, and going up against seniors every week will do that for them. So
thoughts, right?
Yeah, I think Hartlepool's always had a very close connection with Middlesbrough. We see currently at the moment in Daniel Dodds and Matty Dolan, obviously both ex-Boro players, and it's always interesting seeing one of the youngsters go down to Hartlepool and see what kind of future they had. We obviously football's a cutthroat business, especially as you get higher. The more the higher you get in leagues, the more high profile players come in, which means there's probably there's less chances for your youngsters to come through. And obviously seeing them go to a local team in Hartlepool, and do well. We saw Daniel Dodds go on in January of last season to Hartlepool and came in and scored like one of the most incredible goals I've ever seen. So it was interesting, to ever, to always to watch a Boro player that hasn't quite made it at Middlesbrough, just purely to the fact that they can't get a game, go up to Hartlepool and then get a good run there. So I've always, kept a close eye on them and I've always liked chucking them on for a FIFA run every now and then. But it's good to see John Askey at the moment. I think he's a brilliant manager, a brilliant man as well. God, he speaks well. He's very noble. He strikes me as the manager that you wouldn't want to cross. You know what I mean? He seems like he's got that tough side that would probably throw a boot if he had to. And I would hate to be on the wrong side of him. And I think that's exactly what young players and what a young team needs in Hartlepool at the moment, because they're a very young squad at the moment. But I love watching the lower leagues, and we don't have that here in Australia. We don't have that in any sport that I follow here in Australia. Having lower leagues and having relegation and promotion, it's literally iconic to the English game. And seeing teams go up and down and stuff like that is always sort of either fantastic or upsetting. In either way of how devastating it can be. But it does create for an interesting dynamic throughout the leagues, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was going to say, John Askey was a really nice guy to listen to in interviews. He talks so well.
Oh, isn't he? Isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, and I do really wish him success with Hartlepool. I really do.
Yeah, it was interesting to see with Raj Singh, the owner of Hartlepool as well. I mean, as Hartlepool were likened to relegation end of last season, we saw Raj putting the club up for sale. And obviously they were facing relegation. Everyone was saying, Raj Singh, get out of our club. The classic sort of when the club's not doing well, who do we blame? But Raj has now turned around after getting John Askey in and getting a few signings through the door, and Hartlepool, looking like they might bounce back into League Two, straight back at first time asking. And Raj is sticking around now, so it's interesting to see as well. And obviously, the Jeff Stelling as well, having the Hartlepool love as well. It was always good to see Jeff. And his love for Hartlepool as well. So it's good just to see, because everyone's got that, that team, obviously, that maybe that home ground team, that home love. Do you know what I mean? I've got it here with teams that are close by me, and I love them, but they're not obviously big teams by any stretch of the mean. But they're just local teams, sort of thing. So it's a really cool connection to have, and I love that about England is that. There's a club in most towns, whatever league they may be in. Each town has its own football and its own passionate fan base. So it's incredible what a national league team can mean to a few people.
Yeah, okay. Plenty to talk about over the next 50 minutes on the show. Let's change topic, and the next Premier League rights deal could include games being played on Sunday nights. And is this a step too far for football fans, lads? I'm not being funny. We've talked about fixture changes and kick-off times, and Newcastle United travelling to Brighton or Bournemouth for a 5:30 kick-off, or Southampton coming to the Stadium of Light for a 12:30. It affects us all, lads. It affects us all. And this really, I think, is another crazy idea by the Premier League, which of course has a knock-on effect, because eventually it filters down. The Championship will have stupid kick-off times, and there's just complete disregard for football fans. And a Sunday night, let's face it. We have games on Sunday afternoons. We have, we do have slightly later kick-off times. Maybe it's a 4:30, but it still gives that football fan the opportunity to get back before midnight, get a night's sleep, and then has to go to work on a Monday. But now we're going to be talking about potentially here 7-8 o'clock kick-offs on a Sunday night. Again, for those of us who have to travel, home and away and get down to say a Brighton or a Bournemouth on a Sunday night, it's a day off work. So not only is it the travelling time and getting back at an ungodly hour in the morning, but it's now going to affect your working week. You're going to have to take a Monday off work to go to a football match and lose, bless you, and lose and actually lose a day's pay potentially. So I mean, is this a step too far, right?
I think it is for me, mate, and especially when we look at the fixtures that Newcastle have coming up. Can you imagine now, with your Champions League football, you've got a Carabao Cup tie as well. You got Premier League, fixtures going through the ringer as well. Imagine now a week where we see Newcastle having to now play on a Sunday night, then rock up to an AC Millan trip midweek for a Tuesday night, because the Champions League isn't affected by the Premier League. They're not going to change anything. So if we have the Premier League making changes, then why don't we? Why? Because the Champions League won't change. Do you know what I mean? So the Premier League are going to go and make these changes due to TV rights, but Champions League aren't going to abide by that. They don't care. So you're still going to have your Tuesday night, Milan trip, and then you've got them backing up, on a Saturday, game. It's just incredible what they're asking then of fans, and if it's purely, and we've said this time and time again on this radio station, it's purely about the money. Can they generate a bit of, a bigger interest in TV numbers on a Sunday night? And to be honest with you, they probably can. You know what I mean? Because people are going to watch football whenever they want.
To be fair to the Premier League, though, what they would do is in that regard, say they had Newcastle have a match on the Sunday, they would look at the Champions League fixtures and make sure Newcastle had a match in the Champions League on the Wednesday. Because if you look at it as a prime example, the Newcastle were meant to play Sunday just gone, wasn't it, Steve, against Brentford?
Yeah.
So, but because Newcastle had a match on Tuesday just gone there against AC Milan, they moved that Sunday game with Brentford back to the Saturday, so they had the right amount of rest time. So to be fair to the Premier League, they would just put another game on the Sunday night if they'd already picked Newcastle and they had to have a match on the Tuesday. But I get it. I get it's not fair, but obviously we have midweek games and that, and it's stupid places as well. And sometimes in the FA Cup as well. If you remember, on a Sunday, it's because there's that many games shown on different TV channels now for the FA Cup. Sometimes there's a 6 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday as well, or shown on BBC. So it's becoming that way. And I know that like Spanish leagues and German leagues and all that, they all play on Sunday nights as well. So. Yeah, I think they're just trying to. I think the Premier League are just trying to maximise it as much as they possibly can. And you're right, Steve. It'll filter in down to the lower leagues, So it's. I think the acceptance now. I think it's just become the norm. You've just got to sort of accept when a game's going to get played, and if it gets moved, like you say, it gets moved. There's never any like regard for the fans. There's just total disregard for them, So. I think that's the world we live in now, and I don't think anything's going to change, within the next few years. Like you say, if anything, it's going to get worse.
Yeah, it definitely is. There's no doubt about it. It's complete disregard for football fans. Yeah. There's no thought for football fans in this day and age, and that's a crying shame. And like you say, I mean, it's sudden TV changes as well when people have already booked trains, they've booked hotels. They just don't think about the cash that's being lost. But we'll watch. Obviously, we'll watch the details with interest and see what happens. I think there's also going to be potentially games played on a 3 o'clock on a Saturday, which could be televised as well, which is completely against the current protocol. But that hasn't been confirmed yet. But we will watch as well.
I think one of the other
we spoke about it. We spoke about it previously as well with the potential deals of going back to club TV as well. And I think that's something that we really do need to look into as we move forward. Where you can get especially and I'm talking purely on an international basis here, like. I get all of my club, my video match footage through Boro TV directly, right? And it's a brilliant setup. But if we could get a package or a system much like where I look at the American sports with the baseball and the NFL, where you're signing up to the Premier League itself and you can get every game no matter where you are, and then you have your own club commentary or something like that, whatever it may be. It seems to me that, and I think it would be somewhere we're probably heading because of how successful the NBA do it, the NFL do it, and stuff like that, and how Americanized, the Premier League still, we see all the interest in American wanting to take over, clubs in England. It makes sense to me that we would see Premier League TV eventually, or something like that, where you can sign up, you pay the one payment, and then you get every Premier League game live, but you get club commentary or whatever it may be. and that moving forward, I think it's only a matter of time before we see the Premier League start to make money through doing that themselves.
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the other things that worries me is how many other platforms it's going to be as part of the next deal. Because on this deal, we've got the Amazon deal, which allows them to play so many games in a week that you can get through the Amazon Prime. There's the TNT deal, what was formed as BT Sports. There was the Sky deal. Obviously, there's a highlights package as well for the BBC. The
radio rights interest me, Daz. I don't know when will that deal come out at the same time, because I'd be interested to see who gets what.
I think the radio ones are generally on a different cycle to the TV ones.
They're a bit later.
I just think it's messing with fans, in terms of, right, you've got a subscription to this, then you need a subscription to that, then you need a subscription to that. I think Rye's model of having a subscription for your team, so at least you're going to watch your team whenever and wherever you are, I think is a really interesting one. My worry is that there's much more money out there from your Skies and your Amazons and your DAZNs who are going to pay big bucks on this next round.
There's thousands out there, isn't there, these subscription services? There's literally 1,000. I mean, we've got it here in Australia. I'm not sure if you guys get it over there, but in Australia, for us to watch the Premier League at the moment, you've got to have... I'll go through them, all right? So to watch a Premier League game, so if I want to watch Newcastle Brentford on the weekend, I have to be subscribed to Optus Sport, all right? So that's how I watch Premier League. For last night's game, if I wanted to watch Newcastle, the AC Millan and Champions League, I needed to be subscribed to something called Stan Sports, right? When Middlesbrough are chosen for TV coverage, if I want to watch that game, because then Middlesbrough can't show it on their website because they haven't got the TV rights, I then have to be subscribed to BN Sports. The caveat with that is that they also are selected by BN to be shown in one of 3 games out of the whole of the league that might be televised. So right there and then, I've got 3 subscription services to watch. If I want to watch any Premier League, I want to watch any Champions League. Carabao Cup's another one as well, which is on a completely different platform. It's incredible. By the end of it now, just to watch my one club, I've got about 6 or 7 subscriptions. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. And who's coming out worst out of that? The fans.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The fans. Yeah, just missing football. Yeah. It's incredible, and it'll be interesting to see where it all wraps up in the end. And again, it's going to be one of those things. Who's got the biggest paycheck at the end of the day, isn't it? Because that's what the Premier League are after. Who's going to pay the most money for our sport?
Radio rights are the same, though, aren't they, in a way? Because, like, if you look at the BBC, they've got not really a lot of competition. They've only got really TalkSport as a competitor. Sorry for mentioning other stations, but like all the local ones that used to cover like teams, all the commercial ones. And I've said this to Dave before as well. Hello, Dave, if you're listening again on there out there. But
I think he's still in the air.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the local ones that used to cover, like, they're not, the commercial ones are not interested anymore. But I don't know if it's because they're truly music based, or it's just because they can't afford to pay for it anymore. I mean, if you look at BBC around here, last night they were sharing commentary with the big BBC station, a national station. And you're thinking, well, if that's what it's coming to, we're losing local commentary on big games.
It is what it's coming to, and within a couple of years, most of local BBC will have lost their local commentary rights because of the cuts that have gone on in radio, which is great for us as a network. But again, who loses out? With all these it's the fans. At the end of the day, and it will go to a national picture without a doubt, which will obviously dilute it and mean that there's less coverage for our local teams.
And there's less bias as well. And so there's someone, as a blind person who I really rely on commentary for matches, I like the biased commentary sometimes because you get a different perspective from it. You get a bit more passion if it's one of the locals doing it about your team. Whereas if you just listen to the national, you just get the party line, and
It's funny you say that, because back in the day that was something that was completely looked down upon. I remember going for I went for a job interview at a local radio station to be a presenter. Got down to the last 4. I was only 25, 26 at the time, and in back in those days, so you're talking best part of 25, 26 years ago now. It was frowned upon to be biased, and the reason I didn't get the job, and I was told categorically, is because people knew me as a Newcastle fan, and they didn't want me to be they didn't want me to be accused of bias. Whereas now, that would get me a walk into a job with probably the same job, because they want biased people. They want people to create controversy. They want people to whip up a bit of controversy to get people to listen, and that's part and parcel of it. I understand it. I see it on social media. Week in, week out, people going on about certain big name pundits, former players, etc., who go on and have a pop at Newcastle or have a pop at Eddie Howe or whatever, and they do it for click, because they want you to listen.
Gabby.
And that's exactly. Gabby Abonglo.
Talking to you, Gabby.
Yeah, but Simon Jordan's another one who can be outspoken. These people can be outspoken, and good on them, because that's what it's all about. It's about generating views, generating listening figures, and that's what it is. But I love the idea of having a subscription, lads, as you've said, where you can just subscribe to your team, because we go through in this country. You've got to subscribe to TNT, as you say, and Sky. I'll sit on a Sunday afternoon. I'll have the Super Sunday game on in the background. Crystal Palace, Fulham, maybe. Then you'll have maybe a good game like Arsenal, Chelsea, or Newcastle, Man United, whatever. You'll have those kind of games on that you would have on Sky, and your football fans going to watch them, but they watch those other games really out of habit. If you just had a programme where it was literally down to watching Newcastle games or Sunderland games or Middlesbrough games, you'd subscribe to it, and you would use it. So, but I don't think they'll ever do that. I think there will come a time where clubs may be allowed to screen their games, for a subscription price. That might come around, but it's the advertising that dominates, isn't it? Because they want you to watch these games for the advertising money that they get in between. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Just another thing as well. I don't know what you think of this, but I remember when I was younger, like on Saturday afternoons, you'd have like highlights, like a mini highlights package of all 3 games when Roger Thames used to do it. And
good old Roger.
Good old Roger, and you would get all the ITV, like local channels would split and show that their local teams. They just don't seem interested anymore.
Well, it's just the budget, Macca. The budget got removed from local TV. That's what it was. It's not that they weren't interested. People like Roger wanted to do those programs. There was a budget, but gradually, like we're seeing now with BBC Radio, that budget is diminishing. It's been taken away, and that means that programs get cut, and unfortunately, the football was one of the first things to go locally, which was a big.
But
shame.
What? When they show like the League Cup, when they used to show the League Cup highlights, or they would split and show like the local ones, then, and it would have like local commentators doing it and stuff like that. I know that the budget's like not there for it, but if they're showing you the League Cup, they could still split into and regionalise it. That would be much better for the fans, because they would get more than just 2 minutes of highlights. They would get a good 10-15 minutes of highlights. You know what I mean?
Well, back in the good old days, boxing fights used to be on TV for free.
Yeah.
But gradually, when with the evolution of things like of companies like Sky, it all changed, and they took good old sports like snooker and darts, away from the public. All of those things got taken, made bigger, had a bit of a revamp, and they've all been moved. So football's the pinnacle of that. But there's so many sports have gone down the same route, which we've got to pay for the privilege to watch now.
Yeah, and like if you look at like ITV, they show highlights of the Championship, League 1 and League 2 on a Saturday night. they could easily regionalise it, and then so that the ITV regions could show, that the teams that are in their area in the Championship, League 1 and League 2. It just gives the teams a bit more exposure. It gives the fans a bit more what they want. If they couldn't get to the games, they get a bit bigger highlights package. They could still do it in the same time that they, say the programmes from 10:30 till 12 midnight. They could still have that, but there would just be bigger highlights packages for the teams. I don't know what you think, Des, because obviously being in the business and stuff, I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah, I mean that would be great. If there was a North East football program just dedicated to the big three teams, and and obviously teams that are further down the league as well. So it was more of a local package, but it just comes down to the numbers, doesn't it? Money of funding was withdrawn for local programming, a good while ago now, and I think it's a real shame that someone can't afford, because the rights are expensive. Someone can't afford or put together a show that is about North East football, because you could easily get an hour show, easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, it comes down to the funding thing. Same as the radio. Within a couple of years, BBC won't have any local radio commentary. It's unlikely that they'll have any local radio commentary, but that's because of the cuts that have been made. Whereas it seems that whatever the next Premier League deal will be, what was the last one, 4.9 billion or something?
Yeah.
This next one promises to be even bigger, especially if your Amazon get involved and your DAZN, who seems as though they've got an endless pot of cash. Listen, guys, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up on a couple of more things, and then we'll have a chat about Sunderland's prospects this evening. Okay, we'll be back after this.
Together across the Northeast.
The Toon, the Cat and the Red.
Everything is wonderful. Being here is heavenly. Every single day was Mary's prayer.
Danny Wilson and Mary's Prayer. It's the Northeast Footy Breakfast with Steve and Rye and Macca on the Cat, the Toon and the Red.
Yeah. But I haven't got a prayer.
Better than your morning coffee, we are. The voice in your ears, us three, I tell you. We go down better than your morning coffee. But I just wanted to wrap up before we move on quickly. There's been a good message that's come in just to talk about how in the Australia, and just to obviously talking about the TV rights before we went to the quick break, about how it could end up and what it's worth to the Premier League. But we've got the Australian Football League here in Australia, and it's a good point that's been made of the commentary teams now that cover our football league. Obviously, we play games all around Australia. Australia's quite a large area, and it's now been worked out that the commentary teams aren't actually flying to the actual games anymore. It's found out that it's cheaper to put them in one studio in Melbourne, and then they just sit in front of a big TV and they commentate live on the game, much like what I do on the live watch along. So it is becoming more of a thing now for commentary teams to here in Australia especially, to not actually make the travel to the game, because it's cheaper to put them in front of a big TV, and because of technology and the live stream being so frequent, they just sit there and watch it on TV, and then you hear the commentary from wherever it may be, which I think is not the greatest when you can't experience the atmosphere, you can't experience what the crowds are saying and stuff like that. So I'd hate to see the Premier League or anything like that go down that path, but Australia is, has gone down the path of saving money by not sending commentary teams to each of the games now.
That's how it was during COVID, with some obviously some stations weren't sending reporters and stuff like that, and they were doing it in front of a screen, and it just didn't feel right. You couldn't, like you say, you couldn't hear crowds or anything like that. No, there's just no atmosphere, and that's what I like about the commentary, not just the commentary and the description and how descriptive it is. I really like hearing the atmosphere being portrayed by not just the natural noise, but by the commentator as well.
Yeah, I think the BBC...
Speaking of atmosphere,
go on.
I'll be going to some atmosphere tonight in Blackburn, because all roads lead to Blackburn today.
You sell your tickets out for that, Macca, the away fans?
I know there was 400 left a couple of days ago, but I don't know. I imagine that they'll have gone. If they haven't, I reckon they'll all go by tonight, and there'll be a good sellout crowd on to cheer the lads on. So
And how are you feeling about that tonight? Are you obviously coming on the back of a couple of decent results? Some would say lucky, but on the
5-0's really lucky. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
There's the bait.
There we go. We got it. How are you feeling about tonight?
I think it'll be a tough game. Blackburn quite physical, play good football. John Dal Thomason, their manager, ex-Newcastle player, of course. I imagine Steve probably really liked the era when he played for Newcastle. It's always tough down there. And yeah, I'm hoping we can just carry on. I'm not saying it'll be easy to get the win, but I'm hoping we can come back with a win, because as I said earlier, wins just bring momentum. I mean, as we said earlier, obviously Pierre Ekra will be out, and Pritchard will come in, I would imagine. Obviously Bradley Dack's still injured as well, so he won't play against his former club. You probably would imagine it will be Dan Neil and Bellingham in the midfield, with Pritchard and an attacking three of Barr, Burstow and Jack Clark. So it'll be interesting, and if we could win and keep a clean sheet as well, that would just be brilliant. And like you say, we'll come back off this game and we've got Cardiff on Sunday at home, so it's the lads have talked about good weeks. We could have a good week as well at Sunderland, and come on, let's do it. And I can't wait, actually. I'm going down later on today and I'm looking forward to it.
There's a bit of feeling in this one, I think, as well. Obviously, Tony Mowbray and his connection with Blackburn. Obviously, the way it was handled there when Tony left Blackburn, and we saw as well with Bradley Dack obviously signing for Sunderland in the off season, and Brent Bradley, announced his signing at Sunderland. He said it was good to be back under the right gaffer and back at a club that appreciates its players. So that was a bit of a cheeky jab there at Blackburn as well. So obviously Bradley Dack is injured, not playing tonight, but it would have been interesting seeing him. But it's always interesting seeing, ex-managers going back to clubs. I just felt like, they really did push Mogger out towards the end there, and they were wanting to go into a different direction, and fair play to them. But I think there'll be a little bit of bite in his step if Tony gets up tonight, and good on him, as he would. And it's interesting as well for Blackburn, who have just lost Sam Gallagher to a calf injury for 2 months as well. Obviously, Sam Gallagher is their talisman up, their number 9, and he's out for two months or so. So obviously the injury's starting to tell up in the early parts of the season. We've seen a couple of big ones, but Blackburn to lose Sam Gallagher, he was a right threat against the Boro. In what was and they're tough. They're a tough team to break down. Obviously, Hyam in defence and Zamotics in the centre there.
Yeah, that's the guy, Sammy Smolix, who scored. I believe he scored against Boro, didn't he?
Yeah, he got a double.
Yeah, we've got to watch him tonight and be right. The defence have got to be right up for it, and I think we can. I think, as I said, it's about man management and stuff like that. And Tony Mowbray is really good at that, and I just hope we can go down and get the result. But like you say, it will be tough, but. There's no reason
Steve,
why
Tony's your best mate, isn't he? You met him on the train, so
I met him on the train.
Steve and Tony, best mates. What do you think Tony will be feeling going back to his ex-club in Blackburn?
It's a tough one, isn't it, for him, because there'll be all kinds of emotions for Mogger, I guess, as I call him, as I'm his best mate. He
calls me right. This is on you, Mogger, taking my spot as best mate. We'll have words.
But look, Sunderland are going down there with their tails up. They're sitting in 8th place. Nicely positioned. Playoffs looked a million miles away 2 weeks ago. A couple of good results, and now Sunderland are, back in contention. But we know it's early days. Blackburn, they're sitting in 10th place, just behind Sunderland on goal difference, and. Yeah, this is an interesting game. John Dal Thomason didn't cover himself in glory at Newcastle. He came in as a very, very young player, was brought in to play as a bit of a number 10, somebody to play behind the front two. And of course, back in those days, we just lost Ferdinand to Spurs. Alan Shearer was a lone striker up front. He then got a horrendous injury at Goodison Park, and John Dole Thomason had to plough a lone furrow up front. And I remember the first game John Dole Thomason played, he went through one-on-one with the goalkeeper at the Gallagher, and he fluffed it, and he never recovered from that. He's gone into the later parts of his career, though, done really well. Champions League winner, of course. And then I've got to be honest, I was really surprised to see him become a manager. He came across as a really, really quiet guy, somebody who, wouldn't say boo to a goose. Didn't look like he had the minerals to, essentially to be a manager. But he's come in and he's done well. He's fronting a really good Blackburn team this season. I think it's going to be an interesting game. This I really do, because it is a clash of two good good managers. It's two teams who are in form, and I think there's going to be goals tonight. Putting the old Mystic Wraith hat on again, which is done well. Which is done well.
Write it down, lads. Put money on it.
I am going to go for another draw. I think this will be a hat-trick of draws this week for the North East lads midweek. I think Sunderland are going to get an entertaining 2-2 draw tonight with Blackburn, and I think the Mackhams would take that. I think Sunderland would take that, because this is potentially a playoff rival that you're playing tonight. These are two teams who I think, if they get the luck with their injuries and get the luck with their suspensions, I think these two teams will be there or thereabouts again. I think they will be in and around the playoff zone. Maybe not towards the top end of it, but I think they will be there or thereabouts. So this is in all intents and purposes a playoff 6-pointer. I think you've got to win these games if you're being serious about potentially being in the playoffs this year. As a Sunderland fan or as a Blackburn fan, these are the kind of games you've got to win, or at least not get beat, as Sunderland's case, away from home. Blackburn will go all out for the win tonight, but I think they'll leave gaps at the back, which I think Sunderland will exploit. And I genuinely think Sunderland have got an opportunity tonight to get something. They might nick it, but I'm gonna stick with me. I'm gonna stick with my prediction. I'm gonna go 2-2. But I think it'll be an entertaining game. It's live, of course, as well. For those of you, for those fans who aren't going, isn't it? It is live on TV tonight. 7:45 kick-off on Sky Sports. The home side, I know the bookies. The early bookie prices this morning were interesting. 5-4 favourites, Blackburn to win. The draw's 13-5. And as for an away victory, 2-1. Not bad.
Not
bad.
Wow.
So tells you that the bookies have got it pretty much like I have. They can't really separate these two teams. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I guess you guys as well will be keeping an eye, obviously, on the other games tonight. Huddersfield plays Stoke. Hull have got Leeds. Millwall versus Rotherham. Norwich versus Leicester. And Crisis Club West Brom.
That's an interesting one.
Take a trip to Watford, but they're talking this morning about potentially having to have a fire sale in January unless they can find new owners. So keeping an eye on all of those
clubs.
Norwich Leicester's got a feeling of a Premier League game as well.
What about Rye and Daz? I'm sure, are you going to give Sunderland nice predictions?
I think Blackburn are going to win 4-0.
Hey!
There it is. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be good to watch. It's actually interesting to see how the big-bodied defense of Blackburn's going to stack up against the young attacking force that is Sunderland. I think it's actually got the makings of one of the better games to watch tonight. I think obviously you touched on it there, Steve, that the West Brom are in a world of hurt as well. I was going to interestingly watch that to see who lines up, because at the moment there's a few players that are quite disgruntled with payments and everything like that over at West Brom. But yeah, I think Blackburn Sunderland's going to be the key fixture tonight in the all of the championship ones, and I'll be very interested to see just Mogga returning to Blackburn and how he gets on there, and just a little bit more pep in his step after the results that Sunderland have been getting. But yeah, Blackburn will cruise to an easy victory, 4-0. And I think, we'll be talking tomorrow and trying to console Macca like we are consoling me this morning.
Well, I think there'll be goals in it. I know Blackburn were only better than the Boro at the chances that they've missed this season. But I think it'll be an open game. But I think Sunderland will do it. I think it'll be 2-1 to Sunderland.
I love that. You can definitely come back on this show.
But I won't do what Dave did. I won't do what Dave did yesterday, and telling people to put his mortgage on a Boro 2-0 win last night.
Oh, yeah.
Look, for anyone out there that's blaming the show for their lost mortgage, we apologise. And Dave, as you can see, has been we've given him a leave of absence today to go and apologise formally. He's taken the private jet around to people's houses and is formally apologising. But yeah, do not ever take what we say here on the show.
Seriously,
we need to stop putting a disclaimer out.
The money. We do need a disclaimer, yeah.
Although, for those Boro fans and yourself, right, if you wake up early for the Sunderland game for you tonight, our time, you'll probably get more entertainment watching our match tonight than you would have done last night watching your
game. I don't know. I'm a neutral Blackburn fan as well, so I'll be interested to watch them bang 4 goals past you. So you're absolutely right. There wasn't many goals in the Middlesbrough game, but seeing Blackburn score 4 or 5 even, do you know what I mean, tonight will be quite interesting. You're absolutely right.
Just 5 minutes left, lads. Just a couple of breaking news stories on the national front. Spain's women players have agreed to end the boycott after the Spanish FA have announced that they're going to make immediate and profound changes, which brings an end to this rather unsavoury incident that's dominated Spanish football.
Yeah.
It's been horrendous. Really, it really has. Great, and hopefully now the Spanish women team can celebrate, what they should have been doing for the last couple of weeks, which was a monumental achievement in the Women's World Cup. So good to hear that there's finally a resolve to that, and common sense has prevailed. And the interesting one, I'd stuck it in the headlines for this morning's show about Harry Kane, because rumours were abound in the national press that Harry Kane had in his contract, which of course he signed, a clause. Spurs had got a buyback clause in this contract, so that should he want to return to England, that Spurs would have first option. And of course my question this morning was, do you think he's going to return to beat Shearer's record? But Rai, breaking news from you when we were having a quick break at 8:30, you said that the news lines had announced something. What was that?
Yeah, so we're getting reports now that Daniel Levy, obviously the interesting character in Daniel Levy over at Tottenham, is going to come out and do a short press conference at sometime this morning to clarify that his quote was taken out of context and misstrued. And he's saying that Tottenham are making it clear this morning that Daniel has been misquoted with regards to the buyback claim for Harry Kane doing the rounds this morning. He did not say there is a buyback clause. The video of last night's event with Levy will likely be released on their social media channels this morning. This is Tottenham's social medias, and then there will be a short press conference or statement provided from the club shortly followed after. So it is listening like Daniel, who can't keep himself out of hot water, can he? Over at Tottenham, he's always the man that's in the centre of it there. But it sounds like he's been misquoted, and there potentially now isn't a buyback clause that got everyone's tongues wagging that we could see Harry Kane return. But doesn't look like it's going to happen. But I tell you what, the picture for me of the day, guys. I know we don't do this normally, but I'm seeing it everywhere this morning, is Jacob Murphy's, and I know Steve, he's touched on it, but Jacob Murphy's reaction to the Champions League anthem. Get yourselves around that. Have a look at it today. That's from the Northeast Brekky show. Obviously, we cover the 3 teams and Hartlepool and the locals. It's Jacob Murphy's smile and reaction to the Champions League anthem is my happy moment for the day. 28-year-old, dreamed about playing the years. Do you know what I mean? And he couldn't hide his feelings. So make sure you get a look around, and shout out to you, Jacob. I know you'll be listening. You're a big fan of me, not so much Steve. I get that. That's understandable. and I know you're an avid listener, Jacob. So shout out to you, mate, and congratulations. And what a moment that he'll have for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he cherished that. I mean, it must have been fantastic for the local, the local lads, if you like, Elliot Anderson, Dan Byrne, in particular, pulling on the black and white shirt and emulating their heroes from over 20 years ago. The likes of Rob Lee, Warren Barton, Alan Shearer, who did exactly the same in the San Siro. And we'll finish on a positive note, I guess. Newcastle United, obviously 0-0 last night against AC Milan in the San Siro, means that we are still unbeaten in the San Siro, because of course 20 years ago Newcastle United's last away game was of course in the San Siro. We played Inter Milan and we drew 2-2. So the unbeaten run goes on, lads. The unbeaten run goes on.
Well, let's hope we get a good win tonight, and I'm smiling tomorrow. Let's hope so. Come on, Sunderland. I will say 2-0 tonight to the lads in red and white. So come on, let's show the Boro how you win.
I was just about to say good luck there, Macca, and you spoiled it.
Take it back.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys. Thanks very much for another fantastic Northeast Footy breakfast this morning. We will be back from 7 tomorrow morning to find out how the Black Cats have got on and to mull everything else over that's happening with our big three teams, as well as other Northeast football news and the wider picture. From me and the rest of the guys, have yourselves a wonderful Wednesday. I was going to say it is Wednesday, isn't it? Have yourself a wonderful Wednesday, and we'll see you again in the morning. Take it easy.
Take care, guys.
Cheers.
Take care, guys.
Have a good day.